After my wife got drunk and threw up all over herself, I still hadn't reacted when her male friend rushed over to help her take off her clothes. I really can't believe it, darling. How can you live without me? My wife said, making it clear that in her male friend's eyes, she was just a piece of meat, nothing special. I actually thought it was like a meat bun thrown to a dog. Once gone, it doesn't come back. But since the bun is so willing, then let it go with the dog. Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. My wife, Giselle Castro, worked hard for 3 years and finally started to see some success in her career, so she invited her group of friends over to celebrate. It was the first time I learned that there was a man among her friends. His name was Xavier Lambert, fair-skinned, and supposedly Giselle's male friend. To thank them for their support, I took the initiative to cook, letting them taste the dishes of a top chef. After a few rounds of drinks, everyone got drunk. Giselle took charge and decided to let her friends stay the night. Considering it wasn't safe for the girls to go home drunk, I started tidying up the guest room and the spare room for the men and women to rest separately. Listening to them chattering excitedly, I felt quite happy. How many true friends can one have in life? What more could I ask for? My wife usually can't handle alcohol well, but today she managed to down a bottle of red wine. Worried she would feel unwell, I was about to head to the pharmacy downstairs to buy her some hangover medicine when I heard a commotion outside. Giselle was already bent over the toilet, gagging. Just as I was about to go over, Giselle quickly took off her top, leaving only her bra, and waved to Xavier. Xavier, go to the master bedroom, puke. She didn't even call for me? I was puzzled when Xavier quickly stood up and walked straight to the master bedroom. In less than a minute, he had grabbed a camisole and walked into the bathroom. How did he know Giselle wanted to change clothes? And how did he know where the clothes were? Giselle didn't even seem to care and let Xavier help her change. Darling, you're so slow. Come on, reach out. What will you do without our group of sisters? He even turned back to complain to me. Victor Freeman, you better treat our Giselle well. She's so carefree every day. The cold wind outside blew away my drunkenness. She waved at you, and you knew what to do? You two are really in sync. Xavier winked and shook his head proudly. Come on. I've been her best friend for so many years. How could I not know her? This happens every time. She gets drunk and looks terrible while sleeping, so I have to wait on her, right? I said lightly. What? Were you a eunuch in your past life? Why do you love serving others so much? He looked displeased, his brows furrowing as he glanced at Giselle. He opened his mouth but swallowed his words. Giselle regained some clarity, leaned against the wall, and stood up. Seeing Xavier's expression, she asked, "What's wrong? Why do you look so pale? Are you going to puke too?" Xavier snorted and turned into the guest room, slamming the door behind him. One of the girls linked arms with Giselle, angrily pointing at me. "Your husband is so petty," he scolded Xavier. "Isn't he doing it for you? Sisters take care of each other, and your husband is jealous? What is that about?" Giselle's expression grew worse as she shot me a glare before running into the guest room to comfort him. I sighed, fully awake now. More than half an hour later, Giselle entered the bedroom and angrily snatched my phone from my hand. "Why are you targeting Xavier? What did he do to you?" I looked into her eyes and said, "Is it appropriate for him to change your clothes in front of me? Doesn't he know there's a difference between men and women?" Giselle's face turned slightly awkward, and she stammered, "He's my sister, best friend. He's gay. What are you afraid of? He doesn't like women at all. He's a doctor, and in his eyes, I'm just a piece of fat meat." If these things hadn't happened, I might have believed her nonsense. But now, with her guilty expression and the way Xavier looked at her while changing, I'm not blind or stupid. If you all are just pieces of meat, then what's the difference between men and women? Why not let your other sisters sleep with him? Giselle was caught off guard, muttering softly, "Well, it still needs to be separated." I simply turned off the lights, closed my eyes, and ignored her. Giselle knew I was usually gentle, and after a while, she pressed against me from behind. "Hey, Victor, don't be mad. I know you're worried about me. I see you running around. I'm just afraid you'll get tired. Besides, I didn't take everything off. He can't see anything, so don't be jealous." She cautiously tried to soothe me, making my heart soften a bit. But then I thought about how often I travel for work, and how close she was with Xavier. Given his familiarity with my home, this definitely wasn't the first time he had come over. 5 years ago, I bought a house in this first-tier city, and it was with the support of my first bucket of gold that Giselle started her business. In these past few years, I've been busy with work and running around, unaware of when Xavier had mixed into Giselle's circle of friends, even being close enough to help her change clothes. He said your drunken appearance and sleeping posture were bad. Could it be that you too? She held my hand a little stiffly, and after a pause, she said, "When you're not home, I get bored, so I called them over to keep me company. A few people getting together to drink and play cards is normal. He probably saw it while taking a nap. I've been too busy with work and indeed owe her an apology, but just thinking about the scene from earlier, and the fact that she's still wearing that nightgown Xavier gave her, makes it hard for me to contain my anger. Change out of that dress." I turned on the light, got up, and went to the wardrobe to grab another nightgown. "Giselle, wear this one. We don't need to argue over another man. If you change the dress, we can move past this." Males naturally have a possessive instinct over their territory and their females. But I also had my faults. I was willing to swallow my pride and turn the page on this. Family matters shouldn't be aired out. There's no need to disrupt our harmonious life for outsiders. Who would have thought Giselle wouldn't accept it at all? "You're out of your mind. I already told you he's my sister. Why are you acting crazy? You're insulting his character. I'm not changing. Believe it or not." She turned her head and lay down on the bed, fuming. I was also boiling with anger. "He says he's gay, and you expect me to believe it? I don't even want to mention the way he looked at you when you were changing. Asking you to change is an insult to him? Did he stitch gold into that dress for you? Are you losing 500,000 just by taking it off?" Giselle grabbed a pillow and threw it at me, cursing, "If you're sick, go get treated. A few sisters came over to celebrate, and you're nitpicking. Where were you when I needed you? Out messing around, I suppose. He makes me happy, and you just want to stir up trouble." I grabbed her arm. "I'm causing trouble? Stirring up? I invested in your first bucket of gold over the years. I've helped you build quite a network. Today you're the star. Have I asked you to handle any chores? From grocery shopping to cooking, I've done it all myself. You told them not to go home, I booked a hotel, and when you said let them sleep at home, I didn't say a word and started preparing the guest room. Don't you think your actions regarding your so-called male best friend are excessive?" Giselle was furious, and she clawed at my neck. I winced in pain as I let her go, blood marks already appearing on my neck. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. I grabbed my coat and was about to leave when I received a video. It was from a few days ago, the grand opening ceremony of my wife's new store. I couldn't attend because of a business trip, so I bought her a bag to make up for it. In the video, not only were Xavier and Giselle cutting the ribbon together, but they were also singing "Today I Want to Marry You" on stage. Their gazes were filled with affection, completely oblivious to Xavier's view that women were just meat. After singing, they were encouraged by other sisters to play a skit where a pig carried his wife. "Who are you carrying today?" one of the sisters joked. Xavier's hand was resting on Giselle's backside. He laughed and said, "It's my wife, Piggy. Don't believe me? Just ask." Others laughed and asked Giselle if it was true, and she blushed, leaning on Xavier's back. I clenched my teeth and finished watching the video, throwing my phone in front of Giselle. "Giselle, is this what you call sisterhood? Should I make way for you to have a second marriage?" She took the phone, dragged the progress bar back, and pouted. "What's the big deal? It's just a song. It's just to liven up the atmosphere. I felt my blood boil. Liven up the atmosphere? How do you think others see it? For the sake of performance, would you throw away your dignity? Many of the guests are my friends. Do you know how they see me? No wonder the friends who attended the opening ceremony were so vague with me. My old boss patted my shoulder, wanting to say something but holding back. Friends would send me emoji of a green hat when chatting. I was completely oblivious at the time, kept in the dark. I even stupidly asked him what that emoji meant, looking like a fool. Seeing my anger growing, Giselle lost her patience. Are you done with your madness? I need to open the store tomorrow. It's just a staged event. And you're being difficult about it. It's pointless. Besides, Xavier has helped me introduce clients. Do you think you're the only one with connections? Isn't making more money for this family what it's all about? I've said it 100 times. He doesn't like women. My heart sank further. I thought Giselle was just being careless. After all, she usually was reasonable and measured. But with Xavier, her boundaries kept retreating. I began to doubt their true relationship and questioned our marriage. You need to clarify your relationship with him. I don't believe this gay nonsense. I don't believe in the gender divide. You adults should understand this. Victor, you're the one with a dirty mind, seeing dirt everywhere. We're clear as day. How many times do I have to say it? We're just ordinary friends. Do you want to make a spectacle for everyone to laugh at? Is this never ending? Do you have a psychological issue? Hoping your wife has an affair with another man. Her voice grew louder, and my inner rage slowly turned to sorrow. I never expected that the two of us would fall to this point after everything we had been through. When we got married back then, Giselle asked me to make a vow to treat her well for a lifetime. I smiled foolishly and nodded. Her eyes filled with tenderness at that moment. But now, she acts like a shrew, just to defend another man. My heart feels like it has fallen into an ice pit, enduring her curses in silence. There was a knock on the bedroom door, and Xavier's voice came from outside. Giselle, are you okay? It seemed like Giselle saw a lifeline, sobbing as she opened the door and stormed out. Our argument was so loud that her sisters naturally heard it. Clearly, our dispute was caused by Xavier, and yet he comes to stir the pot. I heard Giselle outside crying pitifully. One of her sisters asked what was going on. She stammered as she accused me. He just drank too much and made a fuss. It's just a torn piece of clothing that he won't let go of. Another sister fanned the flames. Men are nothing but trouble. Once they marry you, they don't cherish you. At that moment, Xavier chimed in with a jab. Don't say that. Who let Giselle's business rely on him, huh? Men, they care about face. It's my fault for not being perceptive. Giselle pouted. Xavier, you're twisting things. What do you mean relying on him? It's my own career. With the cash flow in my store now, raising a few pretty boys wouldn't be a problem, right? Xavier joked. Why don't you support me as a pretty boy too? Just $500 a month will do. One sister whispered. Giselle, your husband really needs a lesson. Back then, it was Xavier who went with you to pick out your wedding dress, the style your husband liked. You even specially changed it to one he preferred. I kicked the door open. If you have the guts, say it louder. Say it in front of me. Do they really think I'm deaf? I still remember when I chose the wedding dress. I picked a modest white one, adorned with pearls, shining brightly. Giselle liked it when she tried it on, but then turned to her friends and pouted, saying she wanted to change. In the end, she chose a deep V-front and a slit-back mermaid style, claiming she wanted to be the sexiest woman at the ceremony. Turned out it wasn't for me at all, but because someone liked the flashy style. Xavier calls himself old lady, and he really sees himself as a queen. He's just an uncastrated, lecherous eunuch. I once spent so much to thank them. Not only did I cover all the costs, but I also gave them a bunch of gifts, including Moutai liquor. No wonder in Xavier's heart, I look like a fool. After all my efforts, in the eyes of my wife, I wasn't even as important as her male friend. I wonder who this wedding was for. Back then, I stood on the stage, holding Giselle's hand, and vowed that I would love her for life. Seeing my expression change, Giselle interrupted them. Victor, don't listen to them. I liked both wedding dresses at that time. It wasn't Xavier's idea. Didn't you also praise my figure back then? I glared at them, watching their performance. Seeing me silent, Xavier glanced at Giselle and sarcastically said, "Oh, about this matter, when I saw the photos back then, I just said it looked good. I didn't expect you to take it to heart. Blame my mouth." Victor, don't blame me for speaking harshly. Why drag up old matters and make things difficult for your wife? Me? Bringing up old matters? Who started it first? I grabbed his collar. Who are you calling old lady? Don't you just want to show off that you casually said something and Giselle took it to heart? This is my home. Do you have a say here? Giselle quickly stepped forward to pull my sleeve. Her friends, not afraid of the situation, continued to mock. Giselle, what does your husband mean? Does he look down on gays or just dislike Xavier? How dare he lay a hand? Trash. Exactly. I used to hear you say his mother died early, and I didn't believe it. Now it seems he really has no upbringing. I felt my blood rush to my head, my teeth grinding. Giselle quickly signaled for them to be quiet. I dropped Xavier and pointed at the girls. Is your brain filled with bubbles? Are you secretly in love with him, wanting to be his wife? Or are you just plain stupid? What are your eyes for? Can't you see he has a problem with Giselle? One girl, seeing I was genuinely angry, deflated and tried to mediate. Stop it. It was supposed to be a happy day. Look at what this turned into. Let's just endure tonight, and we won't come again. All right? Xavier has been a doctor for so long. What woman hasn't he seen? You really think too highly of Giselle. I retorted, a doctor is sacred, but that doesn't mean he is. There are bad apples everywhere. Suddenly, Xavier squeaked in a high-pitched voice. All right, old lady was wrong. Is that enough? I'm leaving. Saying this, he picked up his waist-length leather jacket and ran out the door. Giselle saw this and pinched me hard, scolding, Victor, you're such a lunatic. Are you staying or not? I laughed in anger. You don't need to care if I'm a lunatic. Anyway, your old lady has already run off. At night, he dresses so flamboyantly. Don't let other men set their sights on him, or he might end up in a bad situation. After I finished speaking, the women exchanged glances. Giselle gritted her teeth and stomped her foot, dragging the remaining sisters out as well. My heart completely sank. After so many years with Giselle Castro, she would rather run out at night to chase after Xavier Lambert than stay and communicate properly with me. True feelings are revealed in times of crisis. It's in critical moments that you can see who holds a more important position in her heart. They left a mess behind and ran out. I opened all the windows, even if the room got icy cold. It was better than leaving behind the foul air. I took a can of beer from the fridge and downed it in one go. It was only then that I realized how exhausting it was to argue. My muscles felt especially fatigued after being so tense. I still bore the scratches from Giselle, the bruises she left behind. Is this really the true side of Giselle? Is this really my wife, whom I held in my hands and cherished in my heart? I felt as if I had fallen from the clouds into a swamp, struggling to move forward. My mom passed away early, but she always taught me to cherish my loved ones and maintain the family. She endured years of emotional neglect from my dad, but still chose to believe in hope, never transferring her resentment onto me. I have always maintained the initial passion for marriage. I know some men act tough at home, trying to play the big shot, but I always thought that was because they were incompetent, oppressed outside, and could only bully their family at home. I absolutely refused to treat my family like a trash can. That's why I supported Giselle in starting her own business, hoping we could progress together. But the result was inviting a wolf into the house. I sat on the sofa, flipping through old photo albums, our wedding, our travels, our picnics. In every picture, we looked so happy. Back then, we were truly happy, foolishly enjoying ourselves. Or maybe it was just my own perception of happiness. Unfortunately, in just one day, my world was about to crumble. At that moment, I noticed a familiar figure in the corner of our honeymoon photo. I had always thought it was a passerby, but upon closer inspection, it was Xavier Lambert. I carefully flipped through the photos from these years and found that in the pictures Giselle took, especially the landscape shots, Xavier's figure often appeared. My heart skipped a beat. Is Xavier following Giselle? I suspected it was more likely that Giselle had revealed our whereabouts, or even invited Xavier to facilitate their secret rendezvous. These photos spanned several years, and they had been fooling around right under my nose, playing me for a fool. I didn't care whether Xavier was really her close male friend or not, but their relationship definitely wasn't that simple. I didn't know if there was any physical intimacy, but emotionally, it surely crossed my line. Either Giselle was infatuated with this ambiguity, or Xavier was taking advantage of his close friend status. In any case, they were not innocent. I instantly became clear-headed, and I swore I would never let this pair of scoundrels off the hook. Suddenly, the sound of keys jingled at the door. Giselle and a few of her friends came back, followed by Xavier. Seeing my bloodshot eyes and the beer beside me, Giselle thought I felt guilty and reluctant to let her go, so she arrogantly pulled Xavier into the house. Victor Freeman, you're feeling bad, right? If I had known this would happen, why say such hurtful things? Making a scene and being jealous. How about this, you say something nice, apologize, and we'll call it even for today. I snorted coldly. A man like you has no spine? After being scolded and humiliated, you still have the face to come back. Xavier clicked his tongue and nudged Giselle with his elbow. She foolishly continued to defend him. Why can't you let it go? Is this how you treat your wife? I stood up and opened the door again, the cold wind swirling into the room. I should be gentle with my wife, but there's no need to be warm towards someone else's wife, right? I'm not like Xavier. I won't shamelessly cling to someone else's wife. If you have any shame, you should leave quickly. I don't hit women, but I won't tolerate you. Giselle clearly became frightened. I had never exploded with such anger at her before. The girls hesitated as well, and Xavier's face darkened. Seeing that Giselle no longer supported him, he spat on the ground and turned to leave. I shot them a glare, went back to the bedroom and slammed the door shut. They didn't say a word. After a while, Giselle quietly entered the bedroom, trying to explain softly. Hubby, actually, Xavier is a pitiful person. His dad is counting on him to carry on the family line, but he refuses, so his dad found a big sister and did something to him. As a result, he has no thoughts about women. He's been my close friend for so many years and has never harmed me. I treat him like a sister. We are truly innocent. What an idiot, regardless of whether what Xavier said was true or not. Giselle didn't know I had already uncovered the secret of the photos and was still trying to play the victim to gain my forgiveness. I scoffed. Stop. I don't want to hear about your nonsense anymore. Go to sleep. Don't bother me. I decided to temporarily call a truce. Endless arguing served no purpose. I needed to catch them in their act. Giselle, feeling defeated, didn't say anything more and obediently snuggled up beside me to sleep. The next morning, before I even got out of bed, a fragrant aroma wafted over. As soon as I sat up, she handed me a neatly folded set of clothes. She wore a bright smile. Victor Freeman, are you awake? I've made breakfast, your favorite egg pancakes. Come on, put on your clothes. I've already sent them all away, afraid you might feel bothered seeing them again. I felt completely at ease while having breakfast, as Giselle tidied up the house again with great diligence. In the past, she would never have done such things. Suddenly being so industrious felt suspicious, like a weasel paying a New Year visit to a chicken. Definitely not with good intentions. While she went to the bathroom, I checked the camera, and sure enough, the storage card was missing. If she had no ulterior motives, why would she take it apart? However, she, who usually doesn't care about life, probably hadn't noticed that the camera had cloud storage. Her nervousness clearly indicated that there was some secret hidden away. In that case, I would play the long game to catch the big fish. To relax her guard, I suggested taking her to the store. Giselle thought I wasn't angry anymore and happily accepted, sweet-talking me all the way. After she got out of the car, I secretly slipped a voice recorder into the gap of the car seat. Back at home, I copied the videos from the cloud storage. In the nearly 3 months of cloud storage, I found that Xavier often came over to date Giselle while I was on business trips. He acted as if he were at home, and the two of them lived together like an ordinary couple, having done everything. I clenched my teeth and quickly skimmed through it, then called my classmate who was a lawyer. I talked with my classmate for several hours, and he said he would help me draft a divorce agreement. Suddenly, I received a spending alert from a 4-star hotel near my home. Giselle probably remembered to pay after realizing it was charged to my card, right? According to the spending records, they had booked a total of 3 rooms but only refunded 2. Looks like a certain pest hasn't left yet. In the evening, I returned home to find that Giselle had already driven back. She even texted me to ask what I wanted to eat, saying she would cook for me. I opened the car door, took out the voice recorder, found a hidden shady spot, and began to listen. "Baby, your husband insulted me so much yesterday. I can't take it anymore. When are you going to ask him for money? You can't really think of me as your male best friend, can you? I'm so tired of pretending. Do I even have a place in your heart?" The voice recorder captured Xavier's deep voice, completely different from the way he usually spoke with a higher pitch. "Just wait a bit. My store just started to pick up, and I still need his resources. Besides, he's often not at home, so we can do whatever we want. Look out for me and bear with it for a few days, and I'll make it up to you. Okay?" Giselle gently comforted him, followed by the sound of their kisses. I frowned and sped up the playback, finally uncovering the hidden danger among the sweet nothings. They actually planned to drain my finances, orchestrate an accident to kill me, and then collect the insurance. I don't look down on them, but with their IQ, could they really pull it off? Of course, I'm not an arrogant person. If someone you share a bed with wants to kill you, how could you remain calm? After talking with my friend, I cut off their support for Giselle. Giselle's client base sharply declined, and she naively asked me why all her clients had abandoned her. I could only shrug and say that times were tough and consumption was down. For the second step, I pretended to argue with my boss, wearing a long face every day, telling her I was about to be unemployed. Giselle, overwhelmed by her struggling business, felt disgusted when she heard I was going to rely on her. "You've disappointed me so much, Victor. You're such a waste. Don't keep being a nuisance at home. Seeing you annoys me." I chuckled. "Didn't you say Xavier had connections? Why isn't he helping you? If you don't like me, then just get a divorce." Upon hearing the word divorce, Giselle's eyes rolled. "I still need some funds for my business. What about the money you promised to give me last time?" "Money? You're asking me for money? My wallet is emptier than my face. I lost my clients, and I'm still paying my boss back." I decided to play the fool, making her think I was no longer of any use, and they would consider taking action. Sure enough, the next day, Giselle completely changed her previous ugly demeanor, asking me about my well-being and saying I was under too much stress and needed a vacation. "Honey, we haven't gone out in a while. Where do you want to go? Hiking? Swimming? Don't worry about work. I'll be with you. Together, we can get through anything." She spoke softly, massaging my shoulders and legs, and even wore a lace mini dress at night, trying to seduce me. For money, people can really do anything. "Let's go hiking, it's autumn, and we can go see the red leaves." I held her hand, and she smiled brightly, nodding her head. The autumn weather was refreshing, and Giselle held my hand, carrying a backpack, looking cheerful. I felt a bit dazed. If none of this had happened, we might have been a happy couple. Unfortunately, people have changed. This morning, I saw her secretly texting Xavier. They were planning to take action against me. As we hiked up the mountain, Giselle still pretended to be well-behaved, asking about my well-being. but her occasional glances back betrayed her inner anxiety and unease. "Honey, look, the view over there is even better. Let's go check it out." She linked her arm with mine, playfully pointing to a winding mountain path. I held her hand tightly as she walked deeper and deeper, until the figures of the tourists gradually disappeared from our sight. She suddenly crouched down and rummaged through her bag. "Victor, my camera is missing. You go wait over there for me. I'll go back and check." I crossed my arms and stared at her intently. "Giselle, how long are you going to keep pretending? Xavier is no longer here." Upon hearing Xavier's name, she stiffened, and her expression changed dramatically. "I've known about your plan for a long time. If you don't believe me, call Xavier and see if he responds to you." Giselle's face twisted with anger as she raised a rock and rushed towards me, screaming like a demon, "Die! Die! How dare you play me?" Giselle, with her pampered upbringing, how could she defeat me when I was on guard? In just a few moves, I subdued her. Realizing she had no more chances, Giselle knelt on the ground and pleaded with me. "Victor, I was wrong. Honey, please. It's all Xavier's fault. Back then, he pretended to be gay to get close to me, saying he wanted to be my best friend. I believed him and shared many of my inner thoughts with him. There was a time when our business was losing money, and I didn't dare tell you. I just complained to him. He took me out for drinks, and when it got late, he said he would take me to a hotel. I hesitated, but then I thought he didn't like women, so I went. As a result, at the hotel, he complimented me on my looks, saying that my presence had made him interested in women. I was afraid you would find out, so I kept saying he was gay. Honey, I realized my mistake. Please don't let me go to jail." Giselle was deceived by a straight man pretending to be gay, thinking her charm could turn a gay man straight. However, that wasn't a justification for her to betray or harm anyone. At this moment, 2 police officers walked over. "Sir, the male suspect has been arrested, and we need to take this accomplice back to the station as well." I watched as she was taken away by the officers, feeling a mix of emotions. As the autumn wind blew, large leaves fell rustling to the ground. Love, trust, betrayal. These words intertwined in my mind, ultimately turning into a sigh that drifted away in the autumn mountains. I spent several consecutive days at the police station cooperating with the investigation. As the investigation progressed, I gradually understood the general outline of this case. Everything that Xavier and Giselle described was a fabricated lie. He was not a doctor but belonged to a carefully planned fraud syndicate. This group was cunning in their methods, having designed many scams targeting women. Among them, Xavier deliberately disguised himself as gay to approach and gain the trust of his target women. He concocted tragic backstories to elicit sympathy from women and then used the identity of a male best friend to establish a so-called sister relationship with them, thereby extracting their personal information. Many women, like Giselle, naively believed that their beauty and charm could make a gay man interested. They immersed themselves in this illusory love, unaware that they had become prey in someone else's eyes. While they lost themselves in a dreamlike romance, the fraud syndicate secretly coveted their wealth and bodies. A carefully arranged hunting game where women unknowingly became the captured cicadas. The scammers were the hidden yellow sparrows, waiting for the right moment to plunder everything from them. Giselle was blinded by false intimacy, easily believing Xavier's sweet words and false promises. As the investigation deepened, more and more victims surfaced. Some women, like Giselle, were foolishly deceived, even handing money to the scammer, and disregarding everything, dragging their families into the mire. Other women, upon realizing they had been scammed, could only swallow their pride or societal judgment and silently endure. This investigation provided many victims with a chance to speak out and report. Within a month, several similar scammers like Xavier were arrested in the city. The case escalated, and my mother-in-law, exhausted from her journey from her hometown, stormed in and immediately scolded me. "You bastard! Did you send my daughter to jail just like that? If my daughter hadn't had a bad experience at your place, how could she have gotten involved with that kind of filthy thing? You go to the police station right now and bail her out, or I won't let this go." Her words were filled with accusations and anger, as if all the blame lay with me. Our divorce proceedings had been completed, and legally, she was just a stranger to me. But after all, we had been married, and I didn't want to make things ugly. Unfortunately, my words fell on deaf ears. She wouldn't listen at all. I had no choice but to throw the videos, photos, and recordings of Giselle's infidelity in front of her and coldly said, "Mom, I'll call you Mom one last time. Look closely at who was the first to cheat. Moreover, your daughter is guilty of attempted murder, caught red-handed. This is a crime. If you're not satisfied, let's go to the police station." The old lady's face turned pale. Her mouth opened and closed, staring at those photos, unsure how to defend herself. After thinking for a while, she lay on the ground, starting to throw a tantrum. "I'm so miserable, my daughter. No one will take care of me when I'm old. I might as well crash to death," she cried while stealing glances at my reaction. What kind of sin have I committed to end up with such a son-in-law? Not a penny to support me in my old age. I'll have no face to see anyone when I go back. Her cries grew louder, but it was just a tactic to extort money from me. I looked at her calmly, raised my phone, and pressed 911. "I'll give you one more minute to perform. Giselle Castro cheated first. We are already divorced. If you keep making a scene, I might just call. I don't mind telling everyone back home. I don't need my face anymore. It's you who lives there, not me. Supporting the elderly is Giselle's responsibility and has nothing to do with me. Last 3 seconds. 3, 2. The old woman's crying abruptly stopped. She stood up, patted her backside, glared at me and seemed to want to say something. Seeing my finger just a few millimeters away from the phone, she pouted and left. Fortunately, my father-in-law still had some humanity and came over to apologize in person. After several rounds of back and forth, the old man had grown white hair, and I knew he had suffered greatly from family life over the years. He was an old technician, a man who lived a simple life, not fond of speaking. My late mother-in-law always blamed him for not earning big money and would often tell Giselle to find someone with potential. Having to endure such an unreasonable wife, he bore it time and again, only for his daughter to end up in such a situation. I raised a glass to him. "Everything is in this wine." He sighed deeply, nodded, and understood without words. Given that Giselle was a victim encouraged by others and a first-time offender, the court's ruling on her was not too harsh. While in prison, she wrote to me whenever she had the chance, trying to communicate. However, I never opened those letters. Whether she still harbored resentment towards me or deeply regretted her past actions, I no longer cared. Our fate had long since ended. Those unopened letters and the photos of our once happy times were burned together, turning to ashes and scattering in the wind. Those past events, like fleeting clouds, were no longer worth my gaze. I chose to move forward, burying the past deep in my heart. I only hoped that she could reflect on herself in prison and be able to start anew after her release, living a stable life. As for me, I shed the heavy burden of family and devoted all my energy to my career. My superiors recognized my talent and specially fought for an overseas assignment for me, allowing me to escape this sorrowful place. Time flew like a fleeting horse, vanishing in an instant. Abroad, I earned recognition for my outstanding work performance and eventually secured a management position. My life entered a new track, filled with happiness and fulfillment. My new wife is a talented painter, and we share the same values and are deeply in love. She has always supported me silently from behind. At this moment, I am holding our child, sitting in the warm sunlight, watching her focus intently on her drawing. Her brush dances lightly, capturing the happiness of our family on the canvas. The sound of the child's laughter, my wife's concentration, and my inner peace create a harmonious and warm family portrait. This is a new beginning, a new story, a future full of hope and love.